Howdy folks and welcome. This video is about performing CRUD operations in GraphQL. Uh, this video is meant for people that have been able to get GraphQL set up with the folder structure and the type defs and resolvers and integrating those into the Apollo server, and they're ready to start actually doing some CRUD operations, having maybe defined some types or something like that, but now you're ready to actually work with some data. So without further ado, let's get to CRUDing in GraphQL. Okay, so like I said, this video assumes that you're already set up with GraphQL, you've got your database set up, and you know what CRUD operations are. You just need to know how to do them specifically in GraphQL. Well, the place to go is your type defs and resolvers, which if you need to see how they're incorporated into the server, please check out the code and look at the server.js. But they're in my schemas folder, and let's get them open. We'll open up the type defs here, and I'll open up the resolvers to the right. Okay, type defs, resolvers. Your type defs might look a little more like this, like a big string literal. That's mine has the syntax highlighting because I'm using this GraphQL-tag library, saving it in this variable here, and then just applying it, GQL as such, and I get this nice syntax highlighting for my type defs. So I've defined some types. So I'm specifying that I can get a user type or a post type or a comment type. We'll probably just be dealing with users and posts. And I'm, within those specifying some primitive types or even custom types that references post over here and whatnot. But this is something I'm assuming that you've already kind of learned how to do, hopefully by watching one of the previous videos on this channel. But to do our actual CRUDing, we need to do our work here in this query object and the mutation object. We start naming queries in these two objects. And the queries that do your getting, i.e. your R in CRUD, read, go inside this query object. All other ones, i.e. ones that do creating, updating, and deleting, go inside this mutation object. And the same is true with the corresponding resolvers. So let's start building a simple query. We want to do one that will get all users. So we'll name it first, users. And if it took any arguments, we would specify them right here, but it doesn't. It's a get all, so it doesn't need any arguments. We just need to specify what type of data we're expecting to get in return, which is an array of users. So that would be an array of user type, which is specified like this by putting the hard brackets around the user type. Okay, so we've named the query. We now need to write the code for it, which happens in the corresponding resolver. So over here in resolvers, we need to name the query the same as we did in our type defs. So it will be called users. And then we give it the function to actually do the querying and returning of the data that we want. And so I'm actually just going to copy and paste it from a pre-written file here. And you can see what it looks like here. So here's the name of the query, users, has to be the same as this. It's an async function that will return user.find with no parameters, so it will find all, and it'll populate some posts. Okay, and let's go ahead and define a mutation too. We want to create a new user. So we will give it a name first, and we'll call it add user. Now here we will specify some arguments. So the 3 arguments that a user will need are username, and you have to specify the type. So it's a string and it's required. That's what the exclamation mark notates. Email is the next parameter, which is also a required string, and the same for password. Okay, and then we add a colon, and after that we specify the type of data we want to get back. Here we want to get back a user, not an array of users, just a single user. Okay, so we've named this query, no, that's correct, sorry. We've named this query add user. We need to now write the corresponding code for add user in our resolvers. And I call it a query because it is, but it, according to the terminology here, it's a mutation because it's a route that will do creating. So sometimes my terminology, might get a little weird. Like I also just called it a route. It's a mutation, and we're going to be creating a user. So I'm going to grab some code for that. I need to call it add user. And so I did. And it's a function. This one is a little more interesting because it actually takes arguments, whereas the first one didn't. The first one, I'm calling it parent. That's a convention. It is used when you have a situation where you're dealing with nested types. I'm not here, and I won't in this video, so we're basically going to ignore this first argument. But it needs to be there so that we can have a second argument, which represents the arguments, i.e. these, the information that's being passed from the user. And in this case, there's 3, username, email, and password. And so I can then, in the body of the function, do some object destructuring and get variables for username, email, and password, and then use those to create a new user. Okay, so I have a query and a mutation set up. Let's go ahead and fire up the server and see if we have any luck. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and visit this link here and open up the Apollo sandbox. So it starts me off with this example query here, which I don't need. I can just go ahead and delete that. But over here on the left side, this is where I start actually building my queries. I would start by clicking on root here, and then I start seeing options appear with these plus signs. I have the option to build a query or a mutation, and these are there because I've set up at least one query and one mutation. So I'm going to start by first setting up the get all users query. And here it is because it's been set up in the type defs. Okay, I click on that query, and now I see a list of fields, and it's going to yell at me until I choose at least one. So I could, if I wanted to, query all users but just get their IDs, or I could just get the IDs and posts. But if I choose posts, I have to choose one of the properties of posts. Otherwise, it'll yell at me. So for the posts, I'll do title. And then I can even go back and add more of these top level fields like username. Okay, I have a query here. Let's run it. Sure enough, there's no users because I haven't created one yet. But this is good. It's good to see the empty array. You're not getting any errors. It looks like it's working. You can rename this query, and so I would call it get all users, and that'll change the name of the tab here, which is nice because then I can open a new tab and start building another one. Now I want to go back to the root, and this time I want to start building the mutation that we set up to create a new user. So I'll hit the plus sign here, and here's the mutation I want to do, add user. Click on that, and here it now knows the arguments that are required and automatically fills them out here, username, email, and password. And the values for those are these variables here, which is indicated by these $signs. So the variables are shown down here. It's nice of them to set this up for us. So all I have to do is provide the values for email, username, and password down here. It's JSON basically, so we need to do double quotes, and the username will be Mike, email will be Mike at Mike.com, and the password will be password1234. Okay, I have to also select at least one field to get back when I create the user. Getting the ID back is probably a good idea, and then let's get the username back. There aren't going to be any posts, so there wouldn't be much point in doing that. Let's run this mutation. This looks good. I see a valid looking ID, and my username is there. And I can even verify that it worked by rerunning my get all users query. And now I see Mike is there. That's pretty cool. We've done some creating and we've done some reading or getting. So I'm going to set up a couple more of these. Let's go back to the code. I'm going to set up a create post. And I'll also set up get all posts. So let's see, create post. I'm looking at some pre-existing code here. Add post is what I called it. That'll go into the mutations. Okay, takes in title, body, and user ID. Okay, and then we'll also set up a query for getting all posts. Why not? And then I also want to set up an update post. So let's go ahead and just set that up, update post. And then we'll fill out the resolvers for all three of those. Okay, so we need to fill out the resolver for the get all posts. Okay, and I'm just going to do some copying and pasting here. So that is under queries, and it's got to be called posts. And so there it is. Doesn't take any arguments, just gets all the posts and does some populating. Cool. I need my update post mutation, or first I'll do my add post mutation. That'll go here. I've called it the same name that I did here, and it's accounting for those arguments and creating a new post accordingly. And it's also adding it to the user's associated posts, which is handy. Okay, and then update post. So, you know, these are all Mongoose specific. You might be working with a different database type, and so your functions and operations here might look completely different. But as long as it's returning the expected data type, you know, in some way, shape, or form, you're good. You know, GraphQL does not need to work with Mongoose specifically. Okay, so I've added those new fields there. I'm going to restart the server and just hope for the best here. I'm going to revisit. I'm going to rename this mutation that was add user. Let's create another one for add post. So we'll go to root. We'll go to mutation. Add post is there. Great. I'll click on it. I'll rename this first. Add post. It filled in my arguments. And so it looks like I will need a user ID. Let's go and get one. There's only one user. That's Mike. There's the ID. And for add post, I will go ahead and put that in there. And the title will be Mike's post. And the body will be the best post ever. Got to end it with the exclamation mark. It's yelling at me because I haven't chosen any fields to get back when I create this post. So let's get the ID and the title. Okay. This looks good. And I can actually, I don't need to utilize my get all posts. I could just get the information about that post from within my get all users query. And say I need the post ID. Right now I'm only getting the post title. I can uncheck this, recheck it, and now I can kind of select more fields here. So I could get the title and the ID and rerun that. And so this would be the ID of the post. It can get a little confusing there. But now it's a little more formatted. You see this is more indented, so it's a little easier to tell that it's the ID for the post. Okay, we also did an update post. So let's create a new tab. We'll go to the root. We're going to build a new mutation for updating a post. There it is. Click the plus sign here. The only argument that's required is the ID of the post. Okay, good thing we got the ID of the post here. I can just grab it. Real quick, I'm going to rename this update post. And we will provide that post ID here. Then I also want to update the body. So I'm going to add this argument. It's optional. But, you know, what's the point of updating a post if you don't really update the post? So the body will now say, this post has been updated. Okay. And then I need to select at least one field to get back. So I'll get the ID, I guess, and the body back, and we'll run it. That's pretty promising. We could verify that just within our get all users thing here. I can, let's see. I want to get the body of the posts as well within this query. And there you see this post has been updated. That's pretty sweet. So now we've done creating, we've done reading, and we've done updating. So there's only one left to do, and that's sort of a sad one to have to do, but it's deleting. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's go back to the code. Deleting goes within mutation. I am going to delete a user. So we'll first name our mutation, specify any arguments, which will be _ID in this case. and specify the type of data we want to get back from this deletion. And now we will fill in the resolver for deleting a user. I have it set up in the model so that it'll actually delete the corresponding posts, but that's, Mongoose specific. And let's see, we'll put this right below here. We'll sort of group it with other user functions here. We're taking the user's ID, which is a required argument, and deleting them using that. So let's restart the server. And what I'll do is go back to the Apollo sandbox. I'm going to grab this ID, Mike's ID, and I am going to start building yet another mutation. Go back to root here, click on mutation, and I want to do the delete user mutation. Okay, it has one required argument, which is the ID of the user that we're deleting. I will paste that in here. And then I'm going to specify at least one field. We'll do ID and username. So let's delete, let's also rename it, delete user. Okay, why is it null? Because I didn't return anything, but that's my bad. But let's see if it actually deleted Mike. If I rerun this query, he might be gone. And he is. And just like that, I'm gone. And just like that, we've performed a full CRUD, fun time, a full CRUD fun time. That's the best wording I could come up with. But you've seen now how to do basically all the types of data operations that you would need to do in GraphQL. Anything that's a get route goes in query, and anything else goes in mutation, and you write your corresponding resolver code in similar fashion. I hope you had fun watching this video. I definitely had fun making it, and I hope you're excited about CRUDing and GraphQL. All right, folks, take care.